It's been summer for a couple of weeks now, and last year I did a fun little set of videos based around summer things. And I have a couple more summer-based things I could talk about this year, so I decided to bust them out. So today we're finally taking a look at Creepshow again, and this time I am finally talking about a segment from one of the movies. In Creepshow 2, made in 1987, there is a segment called The Raft, based off of a short story written by Stephen King in this book right here, The Skeleton Crew. It's the second segment in the movie, and I kinda have a hot take on it. I don't like the segment. I know. Some people think it's the only good segment in the second movie, but I think it's the weakest segment out of the first two movies combined. I'm not counting the third one, for obvious reasons. I don't even see why people think it's the best segment in the movie when the movie starts with Old Chief Woodenhead. I think it's a solid revenge story, and it made a pretty iconic character for the Creepshow series. He even shows up in the 2019 series in the episode House of the Head, which I did not notice at the time, but a lot of comments told me that. And even the other segment, The Hitchhiker, isn't the best segment in the world, but at least it's funny, and it has some suspense and some pretty intense moments hidden in there. But this segment to me feels like it just lacks in a lot of ways. I don't think it's interesting, I don't think it's funny, and it almost put me to sleep the first time I watched this movie. But before I start just completely shitting on the segment, let's watch it and break it down first, so you guys have a better understanding on why I dislike it, and so I can also compare it to the short story in The Skeleton Crew. So, let's quit yapping and get into it. We start this segment by being introduced to it by the Creep. Who is that? Yeah, for some reason in the second movie, they decided to change the look of the Creep and give him flesh? There's really no other way to say that. Luckily, they reverted him back to his corpse-like form later on, but in this movie, he is voiced by Tom Savini, who has done special effects for a ton of horror movies, including Friday the 13th and, of course, Creepshow. But he's also acted and cameoed in some movies like Dawn of the Dead. Anyways, he introduces the segment by saying, "It's a splashing little ditty about some people who are left stranded without a paddle on a sea of blood."
This bubbly bonbon is titled The Raft.
Then we zoom out of the comics and meet the characters as they recklessly drive through the mountains smoking weed. The dude driving is Deke, and he is the jock trope in every way you can think of. I mean, he drives a yellow Camaro, he is loud, abrasive, and does some questionable things from time to time. Not to mention he's pretty annoying. Yeah, he's pretty annoying. The blonde guy in the back is Randy, and he's really the main character of the segment. In the story, we actually follow his perspective. He's just a dorky guy who's in pre-med, and him and Deke are roommates and best friends, and that's pretty much all the personality he has. The girl up front is named Laverne, and she's the bimbo of the segment. And both of the guys like her and really want her, and she seems to know this, and she kind of uses it to her advantage sometimes throughout the segment. Finally, the last girl is Rachel. She's the quiet and reserved type, and I think she's also in pre-med with Randy, but I'm not too sure. She also has a crush on Deke because big muscles or something, I don't really know. So they're on their way to this place called Cascade Beach to swim, even though it's October. What? Do they not know how incredibly cold the water is going to be? Randy told the group that he was on a geology field trip the week before, and he saw that they still had a raft out in the middle of the lake. So they're gonna go have fun swimming in a lake by themselves before winter hits. I don't know, you might as well just wait until winter. The water's gonna be freezing either way. They drift their way onto the beach, and Deke wastes no time ripping his clothes off and jumping into the water.
Jesus! Easy, Cisco! That water's 45 degrees! Your heart could stop!
You think? You're swimming in October, bro. Okay, I'm done complaining about that for now. If you watch this segment on your own, you might notice that Deke and Randy call each other Cisco and Poncho. This is a reference to an old show called The Cisco Kid, where Cisco and Poncho were best friends in the show. And you can actually see this show on the TV in the store in the previous segment, Old Chief Woodenhead. Also, you'll see Laverne wearing a Horlicks University shirt. It's a college that shows up a few times in Stephen King's work, but it's also the university that the segment The Crate is set in, so that's pretty cool. Randy knows that he can't be one-upped by Deke in front of these pretty girls, so he quickly joins him in the water and unconvincingly tells the girls the water is nice and warm. But when he turns around, he has a fear that his balls are gonna turn into ice cubes.
Balls are gonna turn into ice cubes.
He literally said that. That's crazy. The girls aren't as dumb as the guys, and they actually somewhat acknowledge how crazy it is to swim in a lake in October, but then they hop in the lake anyways. And Rachel gets in with her clothes on. At least Laverne has like swimming bottoms or something, you know? As the group swim out to the raft in the middle of the lake, Randy spots what looks like some ducks struggling to swim in the water. He keeps a close eye on them until both of them disappear. And this is when he notices a big mass floating on top of the water. Seeing this mass makes Randy a little freaked, and he swims faster to the dock so he can get a better look at it. This freaks him out, so he pressures the girls to swim faster to get them out of the water. They get Rachel out of the water before the strange mass even reaches the raft, but Laverne is a pretty slow swimmer, and it's already making its way around the corner and towards her. Luckily, the guys hoist her up on the raft before the gross muck can touch her. Randy examines the strange mass, and despite his background in science and biology, he has no idea what it could be. Deke thinks it's just some kind of oil slick, but it's obvious to both Randy and Rachel that it's not. Also, oil slicks don't have a gross textured surface. Randy continues to examine the strange blob as everyone gets comfortable on the raft. Some a little too comfortable. Wait, Rachel had a one piece on under her clothes? Then why did she jump in the lake with her clothes on? I'm so confused. This segment stresses me out. After a minute of debating on what it is, Deke still thinks it's just an oil slick and asks Randy if he's ever even seen an oil slick. And Rachel answers for Randy and tells him that they saw one about a year ago together, and this mass in the water doesn't look anything like it did then. Randy claims that the oil spill that they saw was chaotic and random, and it looked like it happened on accident.
This thing doesn't look like an accident. It looks like it's on purpose.
Now Rachel is concerned about the mysterious blob in the water, but Deke couldn't care less.
No matter how hard I try, I just can't get worried about it.
She's so concerned that she gets down on her knees and stares deeply into the muck as if she's in a trance by it. Then she reaches down and tries to touch the blob, and just before Randy can warn her, the thing wraps itself around Rachel and pulls her into the water. And after a moment of silence, she reaches out of the gross blob, begging for help as her skin melts away in front of everyone. Now that their friend is dead, Deke starts to worry about the floating monster. Maybe you should listen to your friends next time, bud. He tries to get Randy to tell him what it is because, you know, he's a nerd, but Randy has never seen anything like it before. And Laverne is rightfully very upset that she just watched her friend die, so Deke calms her down in a very soothing and smooth manner.
Stop it, Laverne! I swear to God, I'm gonna smoke you! I mean it!
Jeez, there had to be a better way of doing that, Deke. I mean, you went straight for violence, man. So the group decide to just wait a bit and see if the thing swims away. I mean, it just ate their friend, so maybe it's full and it'll leave them alone for a little while. Or just long enough for them to escape. We cut back to a little bit later, and it doesn't look like the blob has gone anywhere, but it has migrated under the raft. And since Deke is an athlete and good at swimming, he tells the others that he's going to swim to shore and then go get help. But before he can even jump off the raft, the blob reaches through the cracks and latches onto his foot. It burrows its way into his skin and pulls him through the raft with only a small crack for him to fit through, leaving nothing of him behind besides his state ring. Okay, I will admit this is the best kill in the segment for me. It's pretty graphic and horrifying to watch. I mean, the monster literally pulls my guy through a hole that is the size of his foot. That's pretty insane. And then the story, it's a whole lot more graphic, but I'll talk about that here in a second. Seeing this absolutely freaks Laverne out, and she jumps into Randy's arms, screaming and begging him not to let her touch the ground, because if she does, the lake blob will take her down. Yeah, but what if the lake blob takes Randy down? Are you just gonna go down with him? I see no escape for this right now. Luckily, Randy finds out that the blob can't reach them if they stand in the middle of the boards. Randy tries to tell this to Laverne and set her down, but she's just too scared. But he's also not as strong as Deke, so he can't hold her for much longer, so he helps her calm down and he gently sets her down on the planks. We cut to a few hours later and it's starting to get dark. The two take turns watching the blob and making sure it doesn't get too close to them, and they also keep an eye out for any lights just in case anybody comes by they can ask for help. But as for right now, their plan is to just wait it out and maybe it'll go away. Sounds like a great plan. I'm sure the blob will just like take a flight to Hawaii or something. The next morning, the two fell asleep cuddled together for warmth. Randy wakes up and sees the blob is still right beside the raft, so he decides to just keep a close eye on it and let Laverne get some rest. But then this horny prick decides he would rather lift her shirt up and take a peek at her naked body. Where the hell did this come from? I mean, what can you expect from a guy who denies the Epstein list, right? Topical! Like, bro legit a girl while she's asleep for no reason. And because he can't stop gooning to her, the monster sneaks up and grabs onto her face. The blob slowly takes over her body and pulls her headfirst into the water. And the next time she emerges, she's nothing but a skeleton. Randy takes this time to try and escape the monster. He jumps in the water and swims for his life back to shore, with the blob closing in on him very quickly. Luckily, he makes it to the shore successfully, but that doesn't mean it's over. Okay, now it's over. And we end the segment off with the blob dragging Randy's body back out as the camera pans over to an overgrown sign that reads, "No swimming." Okay, so I find this whole segment incredibly dumb. And there is so many ways they could have avoided this whole scenario. Like, for one example, Not swimming in October. It's already cold outside and you're gonna get hypothermia and die. Fun fact, the actor who played Randy, Daniel Beer, actually did get hypothermia while filming this and almost died. He was so cold that his body turned green and you can actually see it in a few scenes. And some of the crew wanted him to continue acting through it. What the hell? Luckily, they decided to take him to the hospital before he did die and he came back to finish the segment. Man, they had like no rules back then apparently. Now, I will be nice to the segment for a second and say that I do like the concept of it. And I think the blob is actually pretty menacing after a few watches. I will admit, my first watch, I was not impressed, not in the slightest. You mean to tell me I'm supposed to be scared of a floating tarp with trash mixed in it? No, sir. And not to mention, everyone in this segment kinda sucks. Minus Rachel, because she really didn't do anything. Deke is really annoying, loud, and it seems like he has anger issues. Laverne is just there to scream and be mildly annoying. And Randy was doing okay until he Laverne for no reason. So I really don't care if any of them make it out alive or not. Also, I will mention that in the story there is a sex scene, but it's more, consensual. I have no idea why they changed it in the movie to be like a scene. And the acting in this segment is pretty bad. It feels like the characters aren't even that worried about the tarp floating around them, and that really takes away from the viewer who you are trying to convince you're actually in danger. Sadly, I just think it was poorly executed in this movie. I actually like the short story that the segment is based on. It describes the blob to be a very abnormal thing in the water. It's like literally a perfect circle, like a hockey puck or something. And it has these colors in it that swirl and hypnotize the people. So they can't really look at the blob for too long or it'll entice them to jump into it. So it adds some suspense and an extra bit of horror to the mass that the segment just doesn't have at all. In the story, it also moves at incredible speeds and is super quiet. It feels really Lovecraftian in the story, but in the segment, it looks and feels nothing like that. It feels like a floating pile of nuclear waste that became sentient and started eating people. And birds. I also want to mention that I really like Deke's death in the story. The segment does a pretty good job at showing how horrific it was, but the story just amps it up a lot. I mean, it describes his eyes bulging out and his skin turning purple, and it even talks about how his bones sound as the blob forces him through a tiny hole. It's pretty intense and lasts a whole lot longer than it did in the segment, but I still like his death in the segment. The story did it a little bit better and it's a bit more gruesome. I also like the way the story ends in the book more. In the segment, you saw Randy nearly escapes but gets ambushed by the blob on the shore, but in the story, Randy slowly realizes that there is no escape from the giant mass that surrounds him. Then he slowly realizes that the colorful swirls that he sees in the blob are there to entice him to come in so it doesn't hurt whenever it eats him. So is like the blob a good guy now? He's just kind of trying to survive, you know? So rather than fight the blob, he decides to just embrace it and he commits suicide. It's a much darker and honestly better ending. I don't know why they decided to change it. I do know why they decided to change it. They didn't add the swirls in the segment. I have admittedly not read much Stephen King in my life, so I really don't know how this compares to any of his other stories, but I really did like the story and I can see why they wanted to make an adaptation of it. Maybe if we get like a 4th season of the Creepshow show, they can remake the segment with better effects and CGI and stuff and hopefully fix it. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this segment in the comments below. Let me know if you absolutely love it and you think it's the best one, or if you absolutely hate it and you think it's the worst one like I do. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, a Discord server, and your name right here on screen. And YouTube members are lumped in with that. Like the video if you like the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.